Hello and welcome to the Beer and Breweries case study by Bonnie Polonato and Kenya Roy. I want to thank you for pointing us in the right direction to use the Beer and Breweries data sets pulled from the company repository. So we pulled these data sets into our studio and conducted an extensive exploratory data analysis for your review. And we hope that our findings will help Budweiser make some key decisions moving forward. So let's get started. We're going to review the data set, address missing values, review summary statistics, identify the relationship with ABV and IBU, and then look specifically at Ale and India Pale Ale, and then conclude. So let's start with looking at the state breweries by state. So looking at the breweries by state, you can see that Colorado has the most breweries, 47, followed by California, Michigan, Oregon, and Texas. We also found, looking in the data set, that there were some missing values in the ABV and IBU values. So we found that they were missing completely at random because we found that there are no other variables impacting the probability of missing this. So using our domain knowledge, we learned that every style of beer has a range of IBU and ABV values, and we determined that imputation would be our best method of addressing those missing values as opposed to list-wise solution. So what we did was use the mean IBU values and mean ABV values by beer style and impute those missing values. We'll see later. So looking at the median IBU by state, we found that the relationship was pretty consistent, but there were two outliers. In Delaware and West Virginia, we found with further research that those two states have only two beer styles, or two beers, both APA style and APA beers, typically have high IBU values, which explains why they have higher median values as opposed to states with many different styles that are pretty similar. And then looking at median alcohol content by state, we see that there's a more uniform distribution with very little peaks. And we also found that looking at the most bitter beer in the United States, that was located in Oregon, and that the beer with the most alcohol by volume was in Colorado. So looking at the summary statistics, there are plenty of things that we found, but the biggest things that we found was that the skewness was right skewed, and that's showed in the interquartile range. So in the 50th percentile of ABV values, we found that most beers fell between 0.050 and 0.067, while the measure of spread was large between 0.027 and 0.128. So looking at the relationship between bitterness and ABV, we found that we couldn't really say that there was an apparent relationship. We wanted to say that there was a linear relationship, but that there wasn't enough evidence to do that. There appears to be many beers with a high ABV and low ABV values that kind of made us pull back our idea that there could be a linear relationship. And we think that if there were less values in that plot, there would be a linear relationship. So we suspected that perhaps there were some specific styles that skewed this data. And there are 91 styles in the data set. We were interested to see if there were any specific styles that we could have pulled out that would show us these higher IBU and ABV values. So at your direction, we looked at IPA and Ale, looking at the distribution of IBU versus ABV. And we found that IPAs had higher IBUs and ABVs, and ales had lower IBUs and ABVs. So we used both K&N and naive Bayes models to get a better sense of classification to confirm what we thought we saw in the last plot. So in the end, we found that naive Bayes produced more accurate classifications of ales and IPAs, and we found that it fit the data set better to confirm what we saw. So with recommendations for Budweiser, we thought we could look into what how lagers stood in comparison to the IPAs and ales that we were already looking at. So we did find that lagers stood to have the lowest ABV and IBU values in comparison to the other two beer styles. We also found that looking at the different beers that were being produced across the country, that ales were being produced at a higher rate and that IPAs were as well. Lagers that Budweiser is known for producing were not being produced as much as the other two styles. We know that Budweiser is fully confident with the lager that is produced. And we know that because Budweiser is one of the foremost beer brands in the US, and that your customers have depended on you to be a great lager option since 1867. So you're confident in that. We're also aware that Budweiser has recently rolled out different beverages to meet newer audiences that are interested in different types of alcoholic beverages, those being seltzers and non-alcoholic beers. So like the Bud Light Seltzer and Bud Zero, what better option would Budweiser have but to introduce an IPA? This IPA could stand to bring different folks in who are interested in higher alcohol content in their beers and greater bitterness in their beers. We know that Budweiser would be a great beer brand to see in the aisles, as it is already a dependable, well-known brand, and introducing IPAs could pull in more customers who are looking for dependable and consistent beer. So in conclusion, we hope that you were able to glean some information from what we've provided today. And if you need any more, feel free to contact us at our emails below. Thank you so much.